He texted her a heart emoji right after stepping out of the shower. I was behind him, still wrapped in my towel, and saw everything reflected on his screen. He didn't notice. Or maybe he did, and just didn't care. My body froze, like my soul had slipped out through the floor. My husband, the man who used to whisper I was the only one who understood him, sending love to someone else while water still dripped from our shower. The next morning, he acted like nothing had happened. He hugged me from behind while I fried eggs, whispering I was the most beautiful woman alive. His hand rested on my waist, the same hand that had been clutching his phone behind my back. I asked quietly who Fernanda was. He smirked with that condescending look and told me I was being paranoid. "You need help, babe. You're imagining things again." That's when the gaslighting began. Again, making me doubt what I'd seen with my own eyes. I started living between two versions of myself. The woman he posted online, the perfect wife with the practiced smile, and the broken woman lying awake at night smelling cheap perfume on his shirt. I once found glitter on the passenger seat of his car. When I asked, he laughed and said, "What now? You think I'm sleeping with fairies?" And somehow, I was the one who felt ridiculous. That's the trap of narcissistic abuse. You bleed quietly while they rewrite the story. Every confrontation turned into manipulation. Every doubt I expressed became proof of my emotional instability. He twisted everything. If I cheated, it's because you pushed me away. You've changed. You're always nagging. That sentence embedded itself in me like a nail. I was to blame for his betrayal. That's how psychological abuse works. It turns the victim into the villain, until you start apologizing for your own pain. I became an investigator in my own marriage. I tracked calls. I checked locations. I memorized the tone of his voice when he lied, but he was always 2 steps ahead. His lies were smooth, surgical. That's just a coworker. But coworkers don't send lingerie photos at 2 a.m. Still, he made me feel insane. I was the wife, the victim, but somehow, I was the one begging for forgiveness. I remember the day he left WhatsApp web open on his laptop. I had 17 minutes alone. I read every message between him and the other woman. He called me annoying, said he was only staying with me for the kids. The pain didn't hit like a slap. It drowned me, quietly, slowly. I couldn't even scream. When he came home, I asked, "Do you love her?" He shrugged and changed the channel. "Are we really doing this now? I'm tired." And then came the silent treatment. 3 full days where I lived in the same house as a ghost. I shrank. I stopped laughing too loud. I stopped wearing lipstick. I stopped using the perfume he said was too strong. I was trying to avoid being the reason. That's what a toxic relationship does. It trains you to tiptoe through your own life. But even then, he kept going. The lies, the late nights, the cold distance. And every now and then, when he sensed I was slipping away, he'd come back with flowers and fake tears. "You're my home. It was just a mistake." But his loyalty lasted less than a weekend, and I kept taking him back, addicted to the cycle of control, abuse, and scraps of affection. The worst night was at his company's annual party. He asked me to wear the blue dress he liked. Halfway through the evening, I caught him watching the HR manager like she was dessert. When she walked away, he leaned in and whispered, "If you had half her confidence, maybe we wouldn't be like this." My face burned. I felt naked in a room full of people. I ran to the bathroom and threw up everything. The wine, the hurt, the shame. I stayed locked in there, shaking, listening to them call my name on the event mic. When I returned, he pulled me into a photo like nothing had happened. "You make me doubt even the things I see with my own eyes." I can't tell where his lies end and my madness begins. Now, every time I close my eyes, I still hear the ping of his phone. And I still wonder, did any of them know I existed? I wanted to ask them, all of them, the women. Did they know he had a wife? Did they know I was home, folding his laundry, while he was texting them, "Good night, beautiful"? Did they know he'd just kissed his daughter on the forehead before sending those shirtless photos from our bathroom mirror? Or were they victims too, pulled into the orbit of his charm, his lies, his endless hunger for attention? I once found a bracelet in the glove compartment, something delicate, feminine, not mine. He told me it was a gift he hadn't had time to give me yet. I nodded. I even thanked him. That's how far I'd gone, thanking my abuser for his rehearsed lies, swallowing the bile just to keep the peace. Psychological abuse isn't always shouting or violence. Sometimes it's being so gaslit, so twisted, that you doubt your own instincts, your own name, your own worth. He controlled everything. My clothes, my tone, who I followed online. He needed to know where I was every hour of the day, not because he cared, but because he couldn't stand the idea of me having something he didn't control. When I asked to go back to work, he said, "Why? So you can flirt with your boss?" But he had no problem texting his ex-girlfriends at midnight. The double standards were a kind of slow torture. The rules applied only to me. In his world, I was never the wife. I was the wardened prisoner of his ego. He made me apologize for crying. "You're always so dramatic. No one else would put up with you." That phrase clung to me for months. It echoed when I tried to explain my pain to friends who didn't understand narcissistic abuse. I stopped telling them things after a while. It's exhausting explaining a kind of suffering that leaves no bruises, only confusion. Eventually, I found her Instagram, one of the many. She had posted a photo of his car. I knew the license plate, the dent in the side door, the fuzzy dice I had begged him to remove. My blood ran cold. She had tagged him, publicly. When I showed him, he exploded. Not with shame, but with rage. At me. "Why the hell are you stalking people now? What's wrong with you?" I tried to speak, but the screaming swallowed me whole. That night, he slammed the bedroom door so hard the mirror cracked. And then came another round of silent treatment. I think that was the first night I really stopped loving him. Or maybe I stopped hoping he would love me back. The next day, he brought home my favorite flowers. Not because he was sorry, but because he knew I was slipping. He always sensed when he was losing control. That's when he'd turn back into the sweet version. The seducer. The man who knew exactly what to say. "You're the only woman who truly sees me." He never said sorry. Just seduction dressed as remorse. I wanted to believe it. I needed to. Because if I didn't, I'd have to face the truth. I was nothing more than a mirror for his ego. You twist the knife and ask why I'm bleeding. Every time I forgave you, I lost another piece of myself. Sometimes I still dream that he's next to me. I wake up reaching for someone who was never really there. And worse, some mornings, I still miss him. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was the way he made me believe I deserved it. Every time I found something, a lipstick stain, a receipt, a message, I didn't scream. I pleaded, like a prisoner begging their captor for crumbs of clarity. But with every confrontation, he refined his cruelty. He didn't just lie. He reconstructed reality. He'd laugh, shake his head slowly and say, "God, you're exhausting." Or worse, "This is why I talk to other women. They're not constantly looking for drama." I stopped trusting my own reactions. If I cried, I was too sensitive. If I stayed silent, I was cold and distant. It didn't matter how I showed up. I was always wrong, always the problem. That's the precision of emotional abuse. It doesn't just hurt, it unravels you, makes you unsure if your pain is even valid. I remember one night in the car, after a dinner where he ignored me the entire evening. He drove in silence, one hand on the wheel, the other scrolling through messages. When I finally whispered, "I feel invisible," he exhaled like I was a burden and muttered, "Then maybe disappear." I turned my face to the window so he wouldn't see me cry. The city lights blurred like my sense of self, fading, flickering, gone. And still, I stayed. I stayed because I thought maybe, just maybe, the man I fell in love with would return. But he never really existed. He was a mask, one he wore long enough to hook me, to make me feel seen, adored, chosen. Then came the withdrawal, the control, the micro-punishments. The punishments for breathing wrong, for asking questions, for having needs. He was careful with his image. To everyone else, he was charming, generous, the good guy. The one who helped his mom, who gave career advice, who smiled at strangers. But behind closed doors, he was calculating, dismissive, cold. That duality is what makes a narcissist so dangerous. They're actors. And I was just another supporting role in his performance. When I finally told him I was thinking of leaving, he didn't try to stop me. He just raised an eyebrow and said, "You won't last a week on your own. You need me. You're too broken." That broke something in me. Not because I believed it, but because a part of me almost did. That's how deep the trauma runs. It rewires you. You start mistaking manipulation for love, control for care, silence for peace. The night I left, he was out with someone else. I packed quickly, shaking, half hoping he'd come back and stop me, even if it was through rage, through begging, through lies. But he didn't. He didn't even call. Just texted 2 days later. "You'll be back. They always come back. You broke me so gently I thought I was healing. I wasn't in love. I was under a spell. Even now, when my phone lights up at night, my heart skips. A reflex. A residue. And I wonder, how many other women are still living in his lie, thinking they're special? Sometimes, I stare at the ceiling at 3 a.m. and wonder how many women are falling for his words right now. That same voice that once told me I was the only one who truly knew him, that no one else ever made him feel so understood. I remember how safe that lie used to feel. It was the most dangerous comfort I ever tasted. I've watched him reinvent himself for every woman. The broken artist. The misunderstood genius. The sensitive soul trapped in a cruel world. Each identity tailored perfectly to what she needed, until she loved him enough to ignore the cracks. Then came the shift. The coldness. The power games. The punishment disguised as distance. It wasn't just infidelity. It was manipulation, deeply rooted in control. He didn't cheat for love. He cheated for supply, for the thrill of being adored again, freshly admired, newly worshipped. He didn't want a partner. He wanted an audience. Once I saw a selfie he took with another woman. Same restaurant where he took me on our 3rd anniversary. Same pose. Same smile. The same hand resting on the back of her chair like he used to do with me. Like she was just the next page in a script he kept rewriting. I felt sick. Not because he moved on, but because it was all so recycled. So calculated. I realized he was never with any of us. He was always with himself. I started therapy after I left. At first I couldn't even say the word abuse. It felt too heavy, too dramatic, like maybe I was exaggerating. But every time I described a scene, my therapist would pause and say, "That's not love. That's emotional abuse. That's psychological abuse." And I'd sit there, stunned, realizing how many nights I had defended a man who wouldn't have blinked if I disappeared. There are days I still question everything. Was it really that bad? Maybe I provoked him. Maybe I imagined some of it. Gaslighting leaves that mark, a permanent shadow over your memories. You lose trust in your mind. You start to wonder if the trauma is just a weakness you failed to hide. I don't hate him. That's what's so hard to admit. Hate would be easier, cleaner, but I miss parts of him, even though I know they weren't real. I miss the way he held me when I was sick. I miss the Sunday mornings he brought coffee to bed. I miss the softness he showed right before another betrayal. And I hate myself for missing it, because those moments weren't love. They were bait. I wasn't healing. I was being lulled back into the cycle. He broke me in ways I still can't name out loud. Now when I hear someone say, "He's just a flirt," or "Men are like that," I go quiet, because I know what it's like to be slowly erased by someone who smiles while they do it. There's a kind of silence that follows emotional abuse, not the quiet of peace, but the hollow, aching kind. The kind that lingers in your bones even when you're alone, even when he's long gone. That silence still lives in my body. It shows up when someone gets too close, when a man compliments me, when I hear a certain song in the grocery store. It's the aftershock of a love that wasn't love at all. Some days, I scroll back through old photos, not because I miss him, but because I need to remind myself that it really happened, that the bruises were invisible, but real, that I wasn't imagining the fear, that I was a victim, not dramatic, not overreacting, just deeply manipulated, deeply controlled, and deeply hurt by someone who wore the mask of love so well, I mistook it for salvation. He used to say, "You're nothing without me," and I used to believe it. Not because it was true, but because he made sure I had nothing left except him. My friendships slowly eroded, my confidence dismantled, my dreams mocked and minimized. He didn't just cheat on me. He stripped me of everything that made me me. That's what narcissistic abuse does. It doesn't just break your heart. It erases your reflection. I remember one night, after yet another silent treatment, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. Her eyes were swollen, her lips trembling, her shoulders caved inward like she was trying to disappear. I whispered to her, "You're still in there. I swear you're still in there." But I wasn't sure I believed it. That mirror didn't lie. It showed me what years of gaslighting, betrayal, and toxic love had done. It showed me the ghost he'd turned me into. The healing isn't linear. There are nights I still wake up with my heart racing, reaching for a phone that no longer holds his number. There are moments I catch myself composing messages I'll never send. Did you ever love me? Or was any of it real? But I never hit send, because deep down, I know the answers. He never loved me. He only loved the way I loved him. Blindly, endlessly, destructively. The women who came after me, I pray they see it sooner. I pray they recognize the patterns. The charm that feels like a drug. The possessiveness dressed as passion. The compliments that come with hidden hooks. I want to warn them. Scream, run. But I know how it works. You don't leave a narcissist because someone told you to. You leave when the pain of staying finally outweighs the fear of going. You didn't love me? You consumed me. I was never your partner. I was your reflection. And when I cracked, you replaced me. I'm learning to live without the chaos now. Without the constant guessing, the walking on eggshells, the waiting for affection like a starving animal. And the silence I feel these days? It finally sounds like peace. But peace has a strange weight when you've lived too long inside a storm. At first, the calm felt unbearable, like something terrible was just around the corner. I'd flinch when my phone lit up, brace myself for the next emotional ambush that would never come. That's what trauma does. It wires you to expect pain, even in the safest rooms. I started talking to myself out loud, not in madness, but in survival, whispering things like, "You're safe now. You don't have to explain yourself anymore. He's not coming back." And even if he did, even if one day his name popped up again on my screen, I know I wouldn't answer. Not because I'm strong, but because I've learned what it costs to open the door to a man who only walks in to take more. There was a night not long ago when I stood barefoot in the kitchen, holding a glass of wine, music playing low. For the first time in years, I felt my shoulders drop. No tension, no fear, no need to check the clock or explain where I'd been. I was alone, and I was okay. And then the tears came, not from sadness, but from relief. Relief that the noise in my head had quieted, that I was starting to belong to myself again. People ask why I stayed. I've stopped trying to answer, because unless you've loved a narcissist, you can't understand how deep the hooks go. It's not just about love. It's about the spell, the way they twist your reality until pain becomes normal, until you fear losing them more than losing yourself. I didn't stay because I was weak. I stayed because I was trained to. He never hit me, never screamed in public, never left visible marks. That's the insidious part of narcissistic abuse. It's clean, polished, performed. He'd buy me roses the day after ignoring me, compliment my smile after weeks of coldness. He knew how to keep me dangling, always starving, always hoping, always second-guessing. And I thought that was passion. I thought that was what love was supposed to feel like. I didn't love him. I survived him. He didn't break my heart. He broke my sense of reality. Now, when I see red flags, I don't paint them white anymore. I listen. I leave. I protect the woman I used to abandon every time I chose him over myself. And when the memories come, because they still do, I let them. But I no longer let them define me. He still lives in the shadows of my past, but I don't live there anymore. He still shows up in my dreams sometimes, not as a nightmare, but as a ghost, smiling, saying he misses me, telling me no one ever loved him like I did. And I wake up startled, not because I miss him, but because there's still a part of me that almost believes it. But I've learned, it's not him I miss. It's the version of me that existed before him, before the fear, before the control, before love turned into punishment. I miss the woman who laughed loudly, who trusted her own voice, who didn't apologize just for existing. He didn't just cheat on me with other women. He cheated with every word he used to tear me down, every truth he twisted, every silence he weaponized. The most devastating part of emotional abuse is that no one sees when you're dying inside. You still smile in photos, go to family dinners, play the role, but inside, you're unraveling in pieces so small, even you can't find them, and no one understands why your light has gone out. I don't search for answers anymore. Narcissists don't love, they use. They don't cry for you. They cry for the loss of control. He wasn't sad when I left. He was angry. Angry that he no longer had someone to humiliate with softness, to betray without consequence, to silence with precision. He didn't miss me. He missed the power he had over me. I loved someone who only loved his own reflection. Now, when I close my eyes, it's not the sound of his phone buzzing that haunts me. It's his silence, and how close I came to going back, just because I didn't know who I was without the